said straight ahead. I said, okay.
Ready? Run.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the change of command ceremony for the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command between Major General Mark Inch and Brigadier General David Glazer. The retirement ceremony in honor of Major General Inch and the swearing-in ceremony for the Provost Marshal General of the Army. At this time, we would like to extend a sincere welcome to General Dunford, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mr. Schneider, Senior Official performing the duties of the Undersecretary of the Army, Lieutenant General and Mrs. Cheek, Director of the Army Staff, distinguished guests, general officers, and senior executives from the Army staff, fellow Department of Defense investigative organizations, and leaders from law enforcement agencies in the National Capital Region. The change of command ceremony is a time to honor the proud heritage of our armed forces. It symbolizes the formal transfer of total responsibility, authority, and accountability from one commander to another. The commanders, command sergeants major, and first sergeants on the field today are representing their units, while their soldiers continue to perform their felony investigative and military police missions back at their home stations and at deployed locations around the world. The following units, from left to right, are participating in today's ceremony. The United States Army Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps, led by Drum Major Mark Matrinko. The United States Army Band Pershing's Own. The conductor is Lieutenant Colonel Derek Shaw, and the drum major is Sergeant First Class Rob Moore. The 6th Military Police Group, commanded by Colonel Dietrich Briscoe and Command Sergeant Major Arthur Williams. The 11th Military Police Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Juan Nava and First Sergeant Francisco Huereca. The 19th Military Police Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Michael Crane and First Sergeant Bryce Ray. The 22nd Military Police Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Vincent Amarena and First Sergeant Larry Avancini. The 3rd Military Police Group, commanded by Colonel Joseph DaCosta and Command Sergeant Major Peter Harrington. The 5th Military Police Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Elsner and First Sergeant Nathaniel Reagan. The 10th Military Police Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Gino McCloskey and First Sergeant Danielle Bishop. The 502nd Military Police Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Whitney Jensen and First Sergeant Patrick O'Rourke. The Fort Benning CID Battalion, commanded by Colonel Randolph Morgan and First Sergeant Nicholas Kriener. The Washington CID Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Russell Stewart and First Sergeant David Astorga. The Color Guard is provided by the 289th Military Police Company, 3rd United States Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, Military District of Washington, and is led by Command Sergeant Major Bradley Cross, Command Sergeant Major for both the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command and Army Corrections Command. The 701st Military Police Group, represented by Colonel Richard Ball and Sergeant Major Marvin Marlowe. The Protective Services Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Derek Bellows and representing the Sergeant Major is Sergeant First Class Ryan Augustin. The 15th Military Police Brigade, commanded by Colonel Don Hilton and Command Sergeant Major Jeffrey Cherigino. The 289th Military Police Company, 3rd United States Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, commanded by Captain Christina Gascheidel and First Sergeant John Walker. The 289th Military Police Company is representing all the military police units worldwide performing law enforcement missions in peace and conflict. The 947th Military Police Detachment Military Working Dog, led by Specialist Hunter Vickery and Military Working Dog Luma. The host for today's ceremony is the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, General Daniel Allen. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation by Chaplain Kenneth Williams.
As we gather together to celebrate this momentous occasion, and I invite everyone present to pray according to their tradition, asking God's blessing and thanking God for the service of a great American. God of grace and mercy, who empowers us to soar on wings like eagles, to run and not grow weary, and to walk and not faint. I give you thanks today for the tremendous service of Major General Mark Inch. As I think of his years of service, I'm reminded of the words of Solomon, who said, "A skilled worker will not serve in obscurity, but will serve before kings." I thank you for granting him phenomenal expertise, knowledge, and wisdom in military police operations, and for developing in him a heart of compassion, selfless service, and true devoted pursuit of a life of peace, love, joy, and balance to create healthy relationships and high motivation among team members at all levels of the Army. I thank you for his exemplary legacy of courage, commitment, competence, and candor. Having walked in the valley of the shadow of death with forces that seek to disrupt and destroy, he resisted those forces of injustice and not compromised his values. For as the Lord was and is his shepherd, we know that surely goodness and mercy will follow him all the days of his life. We commit him and his family to your continued care, protection, and provision, granting him joy, peace, and satisfaction wherever their path takes them. And as Brigadier General Glazer receives the baton, may he run the race with unfailing endurance, spurred on by the legacy of the Military Police Corps Regiment and building on the foundation laid before him. Thank you for his experiences, skills, and training you have provided in preparing him for this awesome opportunity and responsibility. Grant him grace and mercy, filling up in him every need for meeting the unexpected challenges of service. God bless all our military family and our forces deployed around the world. God bless the Military Police Corps Regiment, those who provide security, investigate crimes, bringing the guilty to justice and exonerating the innocent. And God bless the immediate families present here today: Betty, Rachel, Carrie, Katie, Michael, and Matthew, Susan, Sally, Abigail, Luke, and Caleb. And God bless America. Amen.
Please be seated. Biographies for Major General Inch and Brigadier General Glazer may be found in your program. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the seating areas. In keeping with the tradition of recognizing the contributions and sacrifices made by the military families, Chief Warrant Officer 4 Ronald Yeats, representing the CID Warrant Officer Corps, is presenting Mrs. Betty Inch, the wife of Major General Inch, a bouquet of red roses as a token of appreciation for her steadfast support to her husband during his tenure as the commanding general. Flowers are also being presented to the female members of Major General Inch's family and extended family. Master Sergeant Jonathan Ojeda, representing the CID-NCO Corps, is presenting Mrs. Susan Glazer, the wife of Brigadier General Glazer, a bouquet of yellow rosebuds, which signify a new beginning and a new emerging relationship with the command. Flowers are also being presented to Brigadier General Glazer's daughter. At this time, the Adjutant Colonel Robin Parsons will form the units and begin the change of command ceremony as he directs the band to sound attention. The call to sound attention is taken from the British call to alarm, at which the troops would turn out under arms. The tradition is said to have originated during the era of Napoleon. Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of troops is now moving forward to receive command of the formation. The commander of troops for today's ceremony is Colonel Brian Bizaker, Deputy Commanding Officer for the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command and Commanding Officer of Army Corrections Command. He is accompanied by the headquarters staff, Colonel Robin Parsons, G1, Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Acklin, G2, Lieutenant Colonel Frederick Howard, G3, and Lieutenant Colonel Lisa Coleman, G4. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for honors. General Allen has deferred honors to Major General Inch.
Bring your units, present arms! Present! Move! Present! Up! Present! Move! Present! Up! Present! Up! Present! Up! Bring your units, order up, and bring rest! Order! Move! Entrance up! Parade! Rest! Order! Halt! Parade! Rest! Move! Parade! Rest! Order! Halt! Parade! Rest! Order! Halt! Parade! Rest!
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
What?
At this time, Major General Inch and Brigadier General Glazer move forward to inspect the troops. During days past, trooping the line enabled the soldiers to physically identify their leader and allowed the commander to observe and evaluate the soldiers and equipment and to judge for themselves their capability to successfully engage in battle. Major General Inch is not only making his final inspection of the troops prior to passing command to Brigadier General Glazer, he is also expressing gratitude for the truly outstanding job they have done in keeping with the highest tradition of military service. From ancient times, armies throughout the world have conducted ceremonies to commemorate victories over enemies, to honor comrades in arms, and to celebrate special occasions. These ceremonies have added color and pageantry to military life while preserving tradition and stimulating esprit de corps. The Continental Army established the foundation by which our present-day ceremonies are performed, as delineated in the United States Army's first field manual, written in 1779 by Major General Baron von Steuben, the Army's first Inspector General. The principles of this manual, now commonly referred to as the Blue Book, are still valid, and for the most part, today's ceremony is a reflection of the traditions and customs established at Valley Forge. In 1775, soldiers of the Continental Army were drilled in discipline to produce a fighting unit capable of obeying commanders without question. The emphasis on enforcing discipline within the Army continued until 1863, when the emphasis shifted to enforcement of the new Enrollment Act, or draft law. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton felt that a police force must enforce the new unpopular draft law. In March 1863, the Army established the Provost Marshal General's Bureau to administer and enforce the draft law and arrest deserters. During the Civil War, the Pinkerton Detective Agency conducted investigations of criminal acts such as payroll thefts or murders for the Army. Ultimately, Major General McClellan commissioned Major Allen Pinkerton to create the first Criminal Investigation Division. The Provost Marshal General's Bureau remained largely unchanged until the American Expeditionary Forces entered France in 1917. As the American forces increased, there became a need for additional police services. In October of 1917, the Army established the Military Police Corps. From this corps, today's Army MP Corps Regiment evolved. In 1918, General Pershing directed the Provost Marshal General of his American Expeditionary Force to organize a criminal investigation division within the MP Corps. The division's purpose was detection and prevention of crimes within the territory occupied by the American Expeditionary Forces. CID's effectiveness produced favorable results in the recovery of stolen government and personal property. However, the absence of central direction and control and the lack of investigative training and experience among soldiers kept CID from achieving its full capability. The United States entry into World War II changed the Army almost overnight from a small peacetime organization of professionals to a force of millions. As the Army expanded, so did the crime rate, and criminal investigations failed to keep abreast of the expanding crime rate. Commanders did not have the soldiers or the funds to adequately conduct investigations. In January 1944, the Army established the Criminal Investigation Division of the Provost Marshal General's Office. Following World War II, CID was centralized at the theater Army level. Control of criminal investigation personnel was decentralized to area commands during the 1950s and down to installation level during the early 60s. The Provost Marshal General still had overall staff oversight of criminal investigation activities, but operations were conducted at the local level. A Department of Defense study in 1964 called Project Security Shield made it clear that the Army needed complete centralization of its investigative efforts to produce a more efficient and responsive worldwide capability. In 1965, the Army took the first step towards centralizing command and control of CID elements. The Army organized CID groups to match U.S. regions. The following year, this concept was introduced in Europe and the Far East. In March 1971, Secretary of Defense Melvin Laird directed the Secretary of the Army to form a CID command with command and control authority over all Army-wide CID assets. On September 17, 1971, the Army established the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command as a major command. During its history, CID has undergone considerable change, both in the organization and its approach to the problem of detecting and preventing crime. As the Army's responsibilities have grown or changed, CID has responded to every change to provide the timely, professional investigative services that have become its trademark. On January 30th, 2003, the Army announced as part of its transformation plan the recreation of the Provost Marshal General position for the Army. The decision called for the general officer filling the position to be dual-hatted while serving as the PMG and commanding general of CID. Major General Donald J. Ryder became the first PMG in more than 30 years. By reestablishing the position, the PMG became the realization of the Army's vision of enhancing its effectiveness, providing better efficiencies throughout the service, and giving the Army's senior leadership a comprehensive, single-source responsibility and capability for law enforcement, security, corrections, and criminal investigative type requirements. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the singing of the National Anthem by Sergeant First Class Felicia Mitchell. Sergeant First Class Mitchell is a special agent assigned to the 3rd Military Police Group.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof
Please be seated.
Marine prep! Order! Move! Marine rest! Order! Halt! Marine prep! Order! Halt! Marine prep!
The change of command ceremony is a simple and traditional event that is rich with symbolism and heritage. The key to the change of command is the passing of the command's colors. These colors represent not only the heritage and history of the organization, but also the unity and loyalty of its soldiers. The colors are the commander's symbol of authority, representing his responsibility to the command. Wherever the commander is, there also are the colors. The custodian of the colors is the command sergeant major. As the senior enlisted soldier in the command sergeant major is the spokesperson for the loyalty and concerns of the soldiers and a principal advisor to the commander. With this transfer, the unit legacy is passed as a building block for further performance and achievements. Historically, these colors served as the point around which the soldiers of the organization rallied as they moved forward in battle. The colors of the organization have traditionally been at the side of the commander and were carried forward even if the commander fell in combat. All others in the organization might perish, but the colors live on forever. And so, with the transfer of the colors, goes the transfer of the responsibility for the accomplishment of the mission and the welfare of the soldiers. Major General Inch, who held these responsibilities for the past 32 months, will now relinquish them. General Allen will charge Brigadier General Glazer with these responsibilities. Command Sergeant Major Cross passes the colors to Major General Inch, symbolic of the support the NCO Corps gives the commander. As his last official act as the Commanding General of the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command, Major General Inch relinquishes the colors to General Allen. General Allen passes the colors and all they represent to Brigadier General Glazer, who now assumes command of the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command. By authority of Paragraph 2-5A, Army Regulation 600-20, the undersigned assumes command of the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command, effective 4 May 2017, signed Brigadier General David P. Glazer. Brigadier General Glazer returns the colors to Command Sergeant Major Cross, indicative of the trust and confidence the commander places in the NCO Corps. Command Sergeant Major Cross returns the colors to the color bearer, the enlisted soldier who exemplifies the highest standards of discipline, conduct, and military expertise that merit the responsibility of bearing the colors that represent so much to fellow soldiers. Major General Inch and Brigadier General Glazer exchange positions as they return to the reviewing stand, symbolic of the change of command. We will now conduct the retirement ceremony in honor of Major General Inch. But first, let's bring Mrs. Inch to his side. Mrs. Betty Inch is being escorted to the field by Chief Warrant Officer 5 Edgar Collins, the Command Chief Warrant Officer for the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command. At this time, General Allen, assisted by Chief Warrant Officer 5 Collins and Command Sergeant Major Cross, will present Major General and Mrs. Inch their retirement awards. The President of the United States of America has awarded the Distinguished Service Medal to Major General Mark S. Inch for exceptional meritorious service over a 35-year career in positions of increasing responsibility, culminating as the United States Army Provost Marshal General, Commanding General, United States Army Criminal Investigation Command, and Executive Manager of the Defense Forensics and Biometrics Agency. Major General Inch's exceptional leadership, oversight, contributions, and achievements as the principal military advisor to the Secretary of the Army on all policing matters, significantly increased the protection and security capabilities of the Army's installations, camps, stations, and standalone facilities, as well as the more than 55,000 soldier-strong, multi-component military police corps. Major General Inch demonstrated unparalleled professionalism, true selfless service, and a keen insight in positively shaping the Army protection portfolio, corrections, forensics capabilities, detention operations, criminal investigations, biometrics for the foreseeable future. Through his outstanding accomplishments, both in war and peace, Major General Inch culminated a long and distinguished career in the service to his country, reflecting the highest credit on him, the office of the Provost Marshal General, and the United States Army. Signed, Robert M. Spear, Acting Secretary of the Army, and Mark A. Milley, Chief of Staff. Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. This is to certify that Major General Mark S. Inch, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Army on the first day of August, 2017. Signed, Mark A. Milley, General, United States Army, Chief of Staff. Major General Inch is now being presented a freshly fired casing, fired by the Presidential Salute Battery on this day in honor of his retirement. The Commander's Award for Public Service is presented to Mrs. Betty M. Inch for distinguished service to the United States Army, the Department of Defense, and the nation during 4 years as an Army military spouse. Your selfless service is evident in your sincere personal commitment to your husband and dedication to enhancing the quality of life for soldiers, civilians, and family members. You are a role model for Army spouses and an inspiration to all those with whom you come in contact. Your selfless service and dedication have earned you the respect and admiration of all and reflect great credit on you, the Military Police Corps, and the United States Army. Signed, David P. Glazer, Commanding. Mrs. Inch will now be presented the Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation. The certificate reads, "This is to certify that Betty Inch, on the occasion of the retirement of your spouse from the United States Army, has earned grateful appreciation for your own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible your spouse's lasting contribution to the nation." Signed, Mark A. Milley, General, United States Army, Chief of Staff. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the Army Provost Marshal Sergeant Major Richard Woodring, is moving into position for the installation of Brigadier General Glazer as the Provost Marshal General of the Army. The office of the Provost Marshal General was created by and reports directly to the Secretary of the Army and the Chief of Staff of the Army. The Provost Marshal General provides executive oversight of resources and leads and directs policy relating to Army law enforcement, police intelligence, physical security, anti-terrorism, corrections and detention, criminal investigations, Provost Marshal activities, and military police support throughout the full range of military operations. The oath of office will be given by General Allen, installing Brigadier General Glazer as the Provost Marshal General of the United States Army and the Army's Executive Manager for Forensics.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name. You solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of office which
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, General Daniel Allen.
Good to have a speech. No? On the fly. We're checking out Plan B here, team. All right. Always good to have a unexpected opportunity to laugh at ourselves. All right. First of all, I want all of you that were dozing off during the trooping of the lines to hurriedly start communicating with those that were not, because there will be a quiz on the history of the Military Police Corps Regiment and the Criminal Investigations Command history immediately following this ceremony before you can enjoy any of the refreshments that follow. So hurriedly start coordinating. Thanks everyone for joining us today. And it's an honor to be here at Summerall Field with the soldiers, civilians, and families of the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command for this historic ceremony. The fact that we're gathered here indicates that spring is officially here. And I think we're all ready for what's ahead. I'm especially thankful to recognize and honor a great command and two amazing Army families. A special thank you to the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command team for putting this event together. And I want to dispel a rumor that the reason that the agents are not here is because it would spike fear in the force of how many agents we actually have in the field. That is not true. Not true. The real reason is the commanders wanted to ensure that they were here for what is sure to be a riveting speech from General Inch, and he wanted to spare the troops from another long speech on the field. True story. So welcome to the Inch family. It's, I know, awesome for Mark and Betty to have all of you here from across the country. And we want to send a special thank you to their parents, Donald and June, joining us virtually from Arkansas and New York via the modern marvel of FaceTime Live. Thank you for setting an example for your children of service and sacrifice, and for instilling in your children the values that we so richly uphold in the United States Army. A special welcome to all the Inch children who are with us today. To Sergeant Matthew Inch, an intelligence analyst at Fort Gordon, Georgia, Specialist Michael Inch, an MP in the Kansas Army National Guard, Captain J.D. Jacobs, an intelligence officer in the Kansas Guard, and Carrie Inch, a human resources professional. These children extend the proud legacy of service that this clan has carried through the ages. Between Mark and Betty's 5 children, 4 currently serve in our Army. Mark's dad served in World War II, and when you consider the aunts and uncles, cousins, and extended kin, they represent a force to be reckoned with. So please join me for a round of applause for an inspiring, service-centered family. Welcome as well to Team Glazer for coming together to support Dave as he assumes command here today. To Dave's father, Don, children Callie, Abby, Luke, and Caleb, and numerous other family, friends, and brothers in arms, thank you for taking time to join us for what is certainly a special day for Dave and for Susan. The presence of so many here today is indeed a remarkable testament to the deep bonds we form in our great Army profession. And it's clear evidence of the lasting imprint the officers we honor today have made on our force. It's also a reminder that the bonds of trust that enable our service begin at home. Betty, I want to publicly thank you for all that you have done on behalf of our service members, our families, and our veterans, especially through your ongoing work at OSD's Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Office. Another round of applause, please, for Betty's service to all of us. When I asked Mark his greatest source of pride, of course, his family and his children were the first words off his lips. But he also declared that he was most proud of having the privilege to serve our nation, our soldiers, civilians, and family members, consistent with the values that he holds personally dear. You see, Mark didn't originally aspire toward a military career. Yes, in fact, he enrolled at Wheaton College in Illinois as a biblical archaeology major and only joined the ROTC program because he thought some overseas experience would help provide him a firm foundation for his ultimate goal, which was service as a chaplain. Looking back, after about 2 months of service as a platoon leader with the 188th MP Company in Korea, Mark decided this Army thing was for him. He really enjoyed leading soldiers, and he was pretty darn good at it. It was there that General Lynch made a promise to himself that so long as he was placed in leadership positions, he would continue to serve our Army. Well, I'd say that journey proved pretty darn fruitful. Major General Mark Inch has served our nation and our Army in some of the toughest spots and real global garden spots as he pursued excellence at every opportunity. In addition to service in Korea, he led our soldiers in Somalia, Japan, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Mark has served across 4 continents and around the United States. In every assignment, he personified what it means to be a leader of character. Commissioned as a military police officer, General Inch served in leadership positions from platoon to Provost Marshal General. He commanded MP units like the 194th MP Company in Germany. He functioned as a military community provost marshal and served as an operations and executive officer in the 759th Military Police Battalion at Fort Carson. In 2000, Mark entered the world of corrections and detainee operations, commanding the 705th MP Battalion at the U.S. Disciplinary Barracks at Fort Leavenworth. This experience, of course, immediately preceded 9/11 and the United States' entry into Iraq. The Army leveraged his skills and experience with consecutive service as the Director of Detainee Ops in Afghanistan, Commander of the U.S. Disciplinary Barracks at Fort Leavenworth, and Chief of Staff for Task Force 134 Detainee Operations in Iraq. His general officer assignments were equally diverse, as he served as the Commandant of the Military Police School at Fort Leonard Wood, Commander of JIADF 435 in Afghanistan, and ultimately here as the Provost Marshal General and Commander of the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command. Leading an extraordinarily complex organization with disparate missions, Mark was instrumental in the establishment of forward-deployed forensics capabilities and in ensuring felony-level crimes were investigated thoroughly and expeditiously. He pressed to implement the automated installation entry system at Army installations to provide real-time vetting of visitors. He supported the review and implementation of post-Chattanooga insider threat force protection measures, ensuring Army facilities maintain their American Correctional Association accreditation. Try saying that 5 times fast. consisting of 5 facilities with custody over 1,200 prisoners. Mark's the consummate servant leader. He seizes every day as an opportunity to lead the great men and women of our Army, and he epitomizes what it means to be a professional, fulfilling the Military Police Corps motto, assist, protect, defend. His commitment to others was evident outside of work as well. Legend has it that Major General Ince once drove 10 hours from Fort Leavenworth to Colorado Springs to enroll one of his sons in an ice skating camp, only to discover upon arrival that the skates didn't make the trip. Undaunted, Mark got back in the car and drove back to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, because FedEx couldn't get it there on time. And after a quick, I'm sure, caffeine break, a bit of chow, and a cat nap, got back on the road to Colorado Springs just in time for his son to start that skating camp. And no, his son did not go on to Olympic fame, but it sure was a great story. Those who know him socially know that he is just as committed to other endeavors as well. One resounding theme from the myriad folks we canvassed for stories about Mark was that he is a true connoisseur who takes great pride in brewing the finest beer he's ever made. A Renaissance man, he will also, when the occasion calls for it, entertain you with his horn. So his neighbors might need some ear protection in the days ahead when he has a lot more time for those celebrity opportunities. The other theme made quite clear by Lieutenant General Dave Quantock and others is that Mark is a straight shooter, a superb leader, and an amazing friend. He's always there with wise counsel, and he's the first in line when someone needs help. For those who have known Mark Inch for a long time, his reputation and commitment to others come as no surprise. So thank you, Mark and Betty, and congratulations on behalf of a grateful Army and an even more grateful nation. We are proud of you, proud to have shared service with you, and to call you our teammate and our friend. Job well done, thy good and faithful servant. One of the toughest things we do in the Army is bid farewell to an exceptional leader and high-performing command team. And today, we are blessed to welcome Brigadier General Dave Glazier and his bride, Susan, as they assume the mantle of leadership. Dave is no stranger to this command, having served as its deputy since August. More importantly, he is highly regarded throughout the Military Police Corps for over 30 years that he has served our Army and our nation with distinction. Dave has done just about every kind of military police job you can imagine, serving in numbered MP units from lieutenant to colonel. His time as a general has been equally impressive, expanding his knowledge and building on prior experience with Combined Security Transition Command Afghanistan, and most recently as the Chief of Staff of U.S. Army Central. He is purpose-built to be the next Provost Marshal General and commander of this great command. Extraordinarily humble and well-prepared, the most important source of his success is that no matter what challenges he faces, Dave has demonstrated repeatedly his physical and moral strength and his indomitable skill at making those around him even better. Dave and Susan, welcome. We look forward to working with you in the coming months and watching you thrive. Godspeed to Mark and Betty, and thanks again to all for joining us today. Good luck, God bless you, and Army strong.
Ladies and gentlemen, Major General Mark Inch.
Well, I was going to have my aide run and get my speech as well, but I didn't write one. So, General Allen, thank you for your kind words. Your amazing reputation in our Army, I know, comes from your time on the fielded force. commanding at all levels. But having watched you as our vice and known the burden that you carry as our Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, I'm very humbled and honored that you would come and host this change of command and retirement. I'm not sure if General Dunford was able to join us, but I want to thank him for his kind consideration of attending as I served under him in Afghanistan, and his amazing example of leadership I try to emulate. I do want to give a shout out to my parents in Arkansas as they are watching by live stream. Much of what I hold important is at the instruction of my father and mother, and I hope I've made them proud. As I look upon the field and see the soldiers we have before us, the commanders, command sergeants major, guidon bearers, that I know you're representing an amazing command in CID and Army Corrections Command, and all our soldiers, military police soldiers. Very proud of you, very proud of our Army Band and what you provide to this ceremony and the salute battery. You represent nearly 50,000 military police soldiers from the active National Guard and reserves, and you represent them well. Very proud of all of you. I've been humbled to serve in our Army. I say that sincerely, and I want to explain to you why. It is such a privilege to be part of a values-based institution in which we very boldly proclaim those values that we hold dear and that we use to make decisions every day. And in doing that, we are able to trust each other in ways that I would suppose other institutions cannot. Though I would like to speak on all of our values, and some of you heard that speech, but unfortunately it runs an hour and a half, I'll just briefly talk about two. The first being respect. In our institution, we respect each other. Very easily it rolls off our lips to say that we should display dignity and respect to each other, as it should. But if you'll allow me to do one small twist to that and change that to love and respect. That if the approach we take, and I would argue we do take, and certainly I learned as a young lieutenant under a man named Monty Pickens, that we need to truly love our soldiers. And the definition of love is to take into consideration the other person before yourself. That if you love your soldiers and you show respect, units just operate really well. We have that kind of institution. That respect extends to not only allowances, but encouragements to express those personal held values that we hold dear. We're in an institution where you can actually put up a picture of President, then General Washington, praying at Valley Forge, or to hold, yes, your college mug from Wheaton College that says "For Christ and His Kingdom" on it, and be able to express that openly. Our freedom of religion we hold so very dear. Selfless service. General Allen mentioned why I chose the Military Police Corps, to gain that experience, to become a chaplain. Never took a criminal justice course in my life, and yes, I advise the Secretary of the Army on all policing matters. That should be concerning. But indeed, with amazing professionals under me, those point papers came in very handy. But it was my father's and mother's example to dedicate one life to service. In the case of my father, now 91 years old, a minister and a theology professor, and at 91 he continues to write now more than 60 titles that he's authored. And my mother, her service to our family, that her entire effort was to the raising of us 5 children. And in choosing the MP Corps, I thought I would get a front row seat to the issues soldiers had that eventually they might call upon a chaplain. Of course, those are the soldiers on the other side of the MP desk. But I did learn very quickly that a branch whose motto is to assist, protect, and defend absolutely met the way I was raised. And it has been a privilege to serve with you. Our Army values are very dear to me, and I think it's what makes our Army great, because character does count. But also chose a branch that was exceptionally competent, and I am so proud of all the expressions of military police, whether it's our policing, investigations, corrections, or soldiering, our core competencies. As we approach finalizations of our peace officer standard and training, adopting the language that our civilian counterparts are going to understand, just imagine how that will allow our National Guard and Reserve MPs, 72% of our MP force, their ability to start working immediately in their local police agencies without having to attend a state or regional police academy because of the training they received at Fort Leonard Wood. Being recognized as professionals and as those on the active force do a full career and are ready to transition, the ability to transition into civilian law enforcement. Trust me, with all the interaction I have with the International Association of Chiefs of Police, they are looking forward to filling their ranks with our military police soldiers upon completion of your 20 years. In CID, our special agents and our analysts and all those who support, yes, we have a reputation, I have a reputation, General Quantock before me as Provost Marshal General, of being able to get information to our senior leaders very rapidly. Well, the reason I was able to do that is that I had such trust and confidence in each special agent that all we had to look was in the alerts at the case notes. And I want you to know I briefed the senior Army leadership based on case notes of our agents, because you are that good. Recognized professionals in the investigative field. And in corrections, since 2011, our entire system has been accredited by the American Correctional Association. In this past year, we were the only second corrections agency in the nation to also receive the Susan Hayes Award for being fully accredited and being fully compliant with the Prison Rape Elimination Act, recognized through an external audit. And as soldiers first, I had the opportunity, and I'll use only one of many, many examples, to observe the 18th MP Brigade in action in Poland doing a major river crossing operation. I am not confident we had done that size of a river crossing operation since I did one as a captain in Germany during Reforger 88. Masterfully done. And it sent a message to all those who needed to have that message sent, that the Military Police Corps can enable maneuver of our combat forces, and our combat forces are to be feared. And what makes that strength? You know it's the non-commissioned officers, the ability of our NCOs to operate independently and demonstrate the initiative. That is the strength of the Military Police Corps. In the audience is First Sergeant Retired Don Murphy. He better be here. I want to tell you, I would not have made it past company command had it not been for First Sergeant Murphy, and there is a list of command sergeants major who equally kept me focused. I am humbled in our all-volunteer Army. My entire 35 years in the Army, this Army has been a volunteer Army. Think of what we have done, especially since 9/11, but trust me, what was done by our Cold Warriors, and then the officers and NCOs who are all Vietnam veterans that trained me. That legacy and the commitment to our profession is astounding. And when I see the number of our military officers and NCOs and warrant officers that choose to continue to serve as civilians, I could give you such a long list. That commitment to our profession continues. But I am most touched by the commitment of our military families, yours and mine. If you look in the front left corner there, you will notice a lot of uniforms. I didn't pull those people out of the unit. That is my family. Whether it be my father that did serve in World War II as a young corporal, because that was his duty, to the first woman that I married, Barbara Tatley, who I walked with as a partner for 27 years and was blessed, that her father also served, and that her siblings serve, and that the 4 children that Barbara and I had, that they followed the example first of their mother enlisting in the National Guard or the active force, and then later, of course, Katie becoming an officer. And I remember the farewell of ceremony for Vice President Biden, where he said, no man deserves a good woman. And then he said, certainly no man deserves 2 good women. At a very difficult time in my life, God brought into my life Betty Stebbins, now Betty Stebbins Inch, who brought joy back into my life and brought in another great soldier into the extended family in Rachel Llanos. 2 tours flying in Afghanistan, Chinooks. And if you understand the environment and how we use Chinooks, that should tell you what she's done. But I married a woman whose life is dedicated to serving the victims of sexual assault. And then she chose to serve our Army as well. She actually started in the Army at the JAG office in Hawaii and has done an amazing work to include setting up the collection of Christmas gifts for the children of the inmates at the disciplinary barracks in the Northwest and Midwest Regional Correctional Facilities. An amazing effort if you could see what went behind. And her first year of serving as an Army spouse, she earned her spouse boots because I was actually in Afghanistan. And our first marriage was by Skype. But Betty, I love you and thank you for bringing joy back into my life. And another great, and I'll conclude with this, Army family is the Glazier family. Dave and I go back to serving in the basement of the Pentagon as lieutenant colonels, back during and after the attack, him during, me after the attack on the Pentagon. But I have seen him command a battalion in East Baghdad. I've seen him command a brigade at Camp Bucca, where as a brigade commander, he was responsible for 10,000 U.S. military personnel joint service and 23,000 detainees in what became the 65th largest city in Iraq and the only one with power 24 hours a day. And he commanded that. I can assure you this is an exceptional officer that is assuming the duties of that has assumed the duties of the Provost Marshal General. With a great family and Susan and the kids, you are going to enjoy his leadership and you're going to excel to greater heights. Though I would wish to use the rest of my time naming all those who have come, and I am so touched by the turnout, let me go back to what I thought was going to be my chaplain roots and leave you with one concluding thought, and that's to repeat, it is a value of our Army to love and respect each other, and that at every engagement, if that's what you default to, we will continue to be exactly what our nation requires of us. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Provost Marshal General of the Army and the Commanding General of the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command, Brigadier General David Glazer.
Distinguished guests, friends, family, especially those who are unable to join us today, including my oldest daughter, whose Winthrop University team is competing in the semifinals of the Big South Lacrosse Tournament. And to my father-in-law watching on Facebook, thank you for taking the time from your busy lives to celebrate this Army tradition of a change of command and appointment. To the soldiers on the field, representing the Military Police Corps in all the functions we provide to the Army, thank you for your professionalism and the leadership you provide to our soldiers daily. Great leaders forge great units, and we are blessed with more than our fair share. To the Army Band, you're the finest in the world, and your command of soldier skills and exceptional professionalism is always impressive. I want to personally thank both the Secretary of the Army and the Chief of Staff of the Army for their faith and confidence to appoint me to these positions. You see, I am under no illusion that the trust that they have placed in me was due to anything I accomplished on my own, but more a testament to the soldiers, civilians, mentors, an incredibly supportive circle of friends and family that have challenged me, pushed me, forgiven me when needed, and helped me succeed often at personal risk to their own careers when they underwrote initiative gone wrong or a stand on a personal conviction tied to Army values. I am greatly indebted to these fine soldiers, leaders, family members, and friends whose examples I have made part of my personal leadership philosophy. To Major General and Betty Inch, thank you for your mentorship and your friendship, and for the truly outstanding preparation and transition that you have provided to Susan and I. We're excited for the opportunity and feel confident we are ready to lead these superb organizations into the future. To the Military Police Corps, both past and present. You know, our legacy dates back to 10 January 1776, when General Washington appointed a Provost Marshal to enforce discipline, law, and order. And on 1 June 1778, with the creation of the Marshal to protect the force, shape the security environment, and in order to enhance the readiness of the Army. Since that time, we have adapted our organizations, our training, our missions, and doctrines to serve the needs of the Army and, in fact, all the military services in an increasingly complex world, but never losing sight of the core directive to enhance the readiness and effectiveness of the Army and the Joint Force by providing world-class policing activities and services. As we scan the environment, the world continues to rapidly change, and there are still plenty of nefarious actors that would do us harm. And knowing this, our nation recognizes the need for a strong Army. That means this is an exciting time to be a military policeman. As we step off into the future, the Office of the Provost Marshal General and the Criminal Investigation Command will put our heart and our soul into assisting, protecting, and defending our great Army as it takes on the missions assigned by our nation. To my units, all standing orders and policies remain in place until otherwise directed. Thank you for this wonderful ceremony and this warm welcome. Finally, to all those whose attendance, either physically or virtually, thank you again for taking the time to duly recognize this moment in this command.
Pushing zone. Head. Hut. Root. Hut. Kid. Root. Root. Hut. Kid. Root. Root. Hut. Kid. Root. Can't. Pump.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the retirement of the colors and remain standing for the singing of the Military Police Regimental March and the Army Song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Major General and Mrs. Inch will receive well-wishers to the right of the reviewing stand. Please join Brigadier General and Mrs. Glazer for a reception behind your seating area. Thank you all for attending today's ceremony.